welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Baby Kyra. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram and TikTok. If you're an OG, you know this is my original background / room. I'm down here for a little bit and I thought I'd film a video that I've been wanting to make since this whole thing came out. Let's get into the video. So today, you can tell by the title, I'm not sure what the title is actually, but basically Gen Z cannot take anything seriously, and I feel like it creates this kind of toxicity in culture. And what I'm talking about specifically is the glamorization and just putting, in this case, Gypsy Rose on a pedestal. She's become an overnight America's sweetheart influencer. She has a very massive platform that's continually growing, pumping out content, whether or not you want to call it content or not, but she is everyone's favorite apparently. It's so slay, boots the house down, like it's insane, and it's not normal. I don't think it's normal at all to be having this kind of reaction to this person. She needs space, she needs to breathe. She is someone that needs a lot of therapy and that has a lot of work to do on themselves. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you've probably been living under a rock, but this is like the very spark noted synopsis version. I encourage you to go do your own research. I encourage you to go look at this case yourself. I have watched so many videos on it, and not just the act on the Hulu series. I don't think I've even watched that series. I've watched a lot of docu-series, and of course there's tons of YouTubers that have talked about it when this case first came out, or even more recently. But basically the Spark Notes version is that there was this girl named Gypsy Rose, and she had a mother that went by Dee Dee, and her mother had what you call Munchausen by proxy. It's a psychological disorder marked by attention-seeking behavior by a caregiver through those who are in their care. MSP is a relatively rare behavioral disorder. It affects a primary caretaker, often the mother. A person with MSP gains attention by seeking medical help for exaggerated or made up symptoms of a child in their care. As healthcare providers strive to identify what's causing the child's symptoms, the deliberate actions of the parent or caretaker can often make the symptoms worse. And that's basically kind of their goal, is to make their child appear sick for whatever reason, mostly for attention. And so her mother had this disorder, and Dee Dee would take Gypsy to the doctors, and for some reason the doctors continued to treat Gypsy for non-existent illnesses. I believe that they said that she had leukemia, muscular dystrophy, and at one point even had a feeding tube inside Gypsy. And she was also in a wheelchair, despite the fact that she could walk, and she had none of these illnesses that her mother claimed that she had to these doctors. It was so much known about Gypsy's conditions and illnesses that they were actually given a house. I believe it was in the state of Louisiana or Missouri, one of those states. In their home state, they were given a house. They were gifted a house which was obviously disabled friendly and really accommodated Gypsy and her so-called need. They were also gifted plane trips to the medical offices that they needed to go to, and to doctor's appointments. I believe they're also gifted trips to Disneyland as well, because that was something that Gypsy really enjoyed. Also, Gypsy was forced by her mom to behave in a way that was younger than her actual age. She was in her early 20s, but was made to be younger as a teenager. She was actually older. Her mom would change her birthday to make Gypsy younger. Gypsy would eventually meet her now ex-partner, who's currently in prison, Nicholas, who would aid her in the unaliving of her mother. To say what Gypsy went through would definitely get me demonetized. Specifically, I think I can say that she was chained to a bed at one point, and obviously was forced to take medications that she didn't need, and this was obviously a horrible experience for anyone to go through. This was clearly abuse. Gypsy had to basically walk on eggshells with her mother. She had no sort of independence. Her mother sheltered her to the extreme. However, Gypsy would find the internet and eventually converse with older men, or just men in general. That's pretty much what happened. SparkNote synopsis. There'll be some links in the description if you want to go further into that, which I again really encourage you guys to do. After this being said, it's obvious, I feel to anyone, that this is a very serious situation. It's a very serious case in which someone literally is unalive. Two people committed this unaliving, and it's a very nuanced case. I don't really think you can look at it in black and white. There's just so many things in it that you can't just I don't know, the way that people are looking at is way too black and white for me, and I just think that there's so many things that you have to look at in this case. So Gen Z, for whatever reason, just has to standify, have the standification, like as if she's a K-pop idol, and create memes over serious topics. And we haven't just seen this with just Gypsy. We've seen it with serial unalivers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy.
Nah, you should come with. This is a rough area. You shouldn't just be like sitting there.
I just watch the rain fall down the window pane, and I just rub the band, so baby I make it rain. Yeah, I kick it with the savages, and they gon' bring the pain. See, I'ma take this bitch and break it back until I bang. See, I'ma take you watching, put some diamonds in the face.
And like making edits of them, saying that they're hot. It's just really weird, and it's really demented. Like, if you think, like, it's so demented that people are fangirling over literal unalivers. Like, don't understand how that ever was okay, or how that is okay, or how people think of it that way. But for some reason, Gen Z just loves to diminish the seriousness of pretty much anything. And I don't want to defend Gen Z's behavior. I'm part of Gen Z, but I feel like this is a defense mechanism for the things that we've been through, the generational trauma that we've been through, that we continue to go through, the fact that we went through a panini. And I feel like if we don't make jokes of things, it just doesn't, we would probably just not survive. I think we use humor as a way of coping, and I don't necessarily think that's like the best way to cope with things, but that just seems like my generation's kind of self-deprecating also. It's very blunt, but also with comedic undertones, which is just really weird. It just makes it more dystopian that we're literally platforming someone who is quite literally a felon. And I believe in the state of Louisiana, wherever state she got tried in, Gypsy even says that accessory to murder is not a charge there, so therefore she did not get charged for accessory to murder. If she was in a state that did have the charge, obviously she would get charged with that. In her state, she just doesn't have that charge. So her ex-partner Nicholas is basically in prison for life, and he's made some comments about it, which is kind of weird. There's so many sides to this situation in particular. It's really interesting to see, but Gen Z literally disturbs me the most, just how nonchalant that they're making it. And they've made like edits. I've seen the edits on TikTok. I've seen some people I follow post literally like fan edits of Gypsy, and before she was released from prison, there was like countdowns. There was like, why are we platforming someone who has been through abuse and they need time to recover and to go to therapy and do all the normal things that she has not been able to do? She's 32 years old. She spent her life in mother's prison, in an actual prison, and now in some ways people believe that fame is some sort of prison as well, because every single move that you make, you're going to be scrutinized, it's going to be delved into, it's going to be one way or another turned around on you. I feel like we're seeing that already with Gypsy Rose. There are so many TikToks that I've seen that are like, this is why I don't like Gypsy Rose, this is why she should be in prison longer.
I changed my opinion on the Gypsy Rose situation in less than 24 hours. Let's talk about it. I used to stan her and be like, yes, queen, like every single one of you do. I watched the act. I felt so bad for her, and she's a hero and a victim and this, that, and the third. Not anymore, babe. Yes, she is a victim. She went through some stuff that she never should have been through. She deserves to get out of that 100%. However, if you actually do some research and watch her interviews, she's not a good person. She is a master manipulator, and she learned by the best one there was, her mother. There's literally an interview where she's like, I learned to be the best liar with no conscience, no remorse, nothing, best manipulator from my mother. She learned all her tricks from her mother. If you watch her videos, anytime they ask about her ex-boyfriend, who her mom for her, just threw his whole entire life away, has life in prison, she's like, can't worry about that. Her PR team is working hard as fuck. She shuts down the conversation about Nick, redirects the question back to herself, and is like, I can't think about that for my healing and my this and my that, you know? Can't worry about him, I don't want to talk about him. Everyone kept saying, well, he has multiple personalities, which is true. He has the IQ of like a 10-year-old, which is true. Like, all of these things are true, but there's evidence that he kept telling Gypsy, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. And she kept insisting that he does. She manipulated him. And I get there were repercussions when she ran away, like being tied to the bed that one time. However, I feel like there were other routes you could have taken. Like, you didn't want to speak out at your doctor's appointment or anything like that when you found out you could walk and you weren't allergic to sugar and all of these things. And you might be like, okay, well, Dee Dee was controlling, and she would explain it away. She's delusional. She has the brain of a child. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, but she had a laptop, though, that she was FaceTiming Nick on, going on all these Christian Mingle websites, had a Facebook. You couldn't write a letter to the police department or like anybody in the entire world that this is what's going on and explain, my mom is going to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, but all of these medical records are fabricated. I steal for her. I lie for her. She's been making me do this. I found out I don't have all these issues. Here's the proof. And now the media is glorifying her. And she is, again, yes, she is a victim. And that's very sad. The only reason that she is getting attention is because of her PR team, and a shitload of people are making a shitload of money. My fiance explained this to me and literally like switch flipped. Oh my god, that makes so much sense. If you disagree, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I feel like the TikToks that talk about Gypsy Rose in the sense that she's evil, she should be in prison longer, all this other stuff. There's so many TikToks that are like that. Why they stopped standing Gypsy Rose? Like, first of all, you shouldn't have stand her in the first place. That's something that shouldn't have been done in the first place at all. But also, there's no perfect way for a victim of abuse to act. Honestly, I found it really similar to how my school treated me after my essay report, and just basically like people would say like, well, if you went through that, you wouldn't be doing shows, you wouldn't be doing music, you wouldn't be doing this or going out with friends. There's no like, what am I supposed to do? They don't know that I cried for hours when I got home. My mom had to drop me off to school. Like, there's no perfect way a victim should act, but obviously people have this kind of preconceived notion of how they would want someone to act. I don't necessarily think Gypsy's in the wrong for having social media or just going on these platforms, because it's not really her fault per se, but also I feel like she knows and is aware of how people treat her and how people view her. There's so many like disgusting comments of like telling Gypsy like, this is how to make your content better, get a better phone, get better clothes, or like I've seen stuff like that, and it's like, she's not a content making machine. She's been out of prison for what, a couple weeks now, if that, and she's trying to be an advocate for people who've gone through what she's gone through. And I feel like a lot of times the interviews that she's been on, people just don't care about what she's been through, but just the fact that this girl is popular right now and they want her on the show. That famous, now infamous clip, I think it was on The View or something, and how they asked her, or they were talking to her, and she literally had to tell them like, unaliving is not okay.
In my words, that you are not alone in this, you know, situation. There are other ways out. I did it the wrong way.
No.
You know,
Don't say that.
I did.
You had no
I
choice,
did
really.
something wrong, and I paid my dues for it.
Oh, you mean that part?
Yes, the part of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that part of it. Yeah.
Where are you
Never
going
mind.
with this?
Yeah, no. You know, so I did something.
Murder is wrong,
Yes,
Joy.
murder's wrong.
I do want to ask you, and you
It just proves the point that people aren't really listening to her and understanding that she is a person of abuse. She went through this. I feel like a lot of people are saying a lot of things about her, obviously. But it is also kind of worrisome that she has this Lifetime special thing coming out. She's written a book.
It wasn't easy for Ryan to break down my walls. I threw everything at him to the point that it was almost cruel.
Gypsy can say some hardcore stuff when she wants to. She's got a bite and she can get jealous, and she likes to make me jealous on occasion, because there are people who want to be with Gypsy, and she gets letters and emails.
I have said, I don't think that you are enough. I might want more. I might want freedom to date around. I would tell him things that I knew would hurt him, because I was trying to push him away.
Which, you know, I feel like a lot of people who are kind of in that situation write books, you know. I guess it's kind of therapeutic for people who go into these kinds of situations. I guess I would write a book too, I don't know. Basically, she has a whole PR team, and kind of concerning, she's been PR trained. She's also been trained her entire life how to please people and how to put on this facade, basically. It shouldn't be surprising that she speaks well, because she's literally, her life has been rehearsed. Her life has been molded into something that she has to perform. She's performing, and I think it's not good. I think she needs to not be performing, and she's on all these talk shows. She was on our red carpet. It's really scary. It's really, really dystopian, and I feel like a lot of people throw that word around, but I feel like it's some sort of Black Mirror episode in which, like, someone gets out of prison for unaliving their family member, and now they're just some influencer superstar. And I feel like Gen Z has a lot to do with her platforming and her having a big audience and everyone just loving her at the moment. But as soon as they love you, they're going to hate you, and it's just a matter of time. And hopefully Gypsy has enough people and her team to help her navigate through that kind of situation, which I feel like is kind of inevitable. It's just how the internet works, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha primarily. I feel like it's just content. Like, I thought that Gen Z and, you know, millennials consuming true crime content was a little weird, especially when YouTubers started doing mukbangs and talking about literally bodies being chopped up, and in their next second they're showing you a Big Mac. That was already highly problematic in itself, and I hope I don't need to explain why that is problematic. Or you got Bailey Sarian with her doing makeup in murder mysteries, like, very out of touch, and it's very disrespectful to the families who have actually endured it, because it's being consumed as entertainment instead of maybe awareness of the situation, awareness of, you know, missing kids, or just abusive relationships, whatever the story may be. Like, it's not for that sole purpose. There are some YouTubers that do cover true crime, I feel like, more in a journalistic kind of way than these other YouTubers do, because I feel like for Bailey Sarian, in example, like, don't get me, like, I used to watch her, then it started getting really weird. More that I thought about it, like, I'm watching someone do their makeup and talk about something really horrible, and I feel like a lot of it's just like a launching point, because true crime's really popular and it makes them go into different facets that they actually wanted to do, like makeup or fashion or whatever it is, you know. I'm not saying that I'm not aware, because I don't follow Bailey Sarian anymore, if like these YouTubers actually do that, but it's what I feel like kind of the launching point from what I've seen. I feel like that this consumption of entertainment, the skewed view of what entertainment is, especially now, everything's being recorded, everything being seen by thousands of people, everyone can say something on the internet, everyone can comment, everyone can put in their 2 cents, and I feel like it's really damaging us and really making us less empathetic, and I feel like it's really callousing us to real world things. I don't know how else to say it, but I feel like Gen Z is like kind of the root cause of it. I know there's probably other generations that are playing into it, but I feel like primarily Gen Z, TikTok is the source of why Gypsy is on this path. And I feel like Gen Z is always looking for the next big thing, you know. It's like haha, hee hee, funny when she made that comment about her husband.
Can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now. I'm living my best life, and y'all can't take that from me.
And the D is
Fire!
Whatever, people like, yes, queen, yes, slay. Like, reminder, she went through something very traumatic and she has to deal with everyday lives. And also, I just feel like she's never been alone in her entire life. Like, she's never experienced how to be alone with yourself and how to, you know, rely on yourself. And I just feel like maybe this is my opinion, but I feel like her relationship with her husband, it's I feel like she's kind of in her honeymoon phase right now. Maybe she'll never get out of it. She's always seemed to be very hopeless romantic, and who wouldn't be in her situation, hoping that there's someone out there for you. And you know, that's everyone's kind of thing, you know. But I feel like in her situation specifically, I feel like having a husband and not really exploring, like, she never had the chance to really grow up, to experience things, to learn, to have experience, to have heartbreak of like a normal relationship, you know, going out on dates, going to school, meeting other people, being socialized. Like, those are kind of pivotal landmarks of what everyone kind of goes through, and she didn't really have that upbringing, obviously. And I feel like she's 32 now, and I feel still like she's kind of stunted in that way, which wouldn't really be surprising if she is. But of course, everyone's like, wow, she's so well spoken, blah blah blah. Of course she's well spoken. She's been basically groomed to be this way her entire life. I just think that we need to stop doing this to people. Like, it's really strange, and everyone just either hates her or loves her to death, you know. There's no like in between. It's like one extreme or the other. I just think that like glorifying these kinds of people, and I'm not saying that Gypsy's necessarily a bad person, but I feel like once she does something a little questionable, people are gonna turn on her like so quick. It's kind of inevitable at this point, because we see it time and time again with so many famous people, with people who blew up, blah 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 blah. There's gonna be some controversy, some scandal. Yeah, I think that's basically I'm kind of foreseeing the future, kind of putting in my, but I'm glad to retract anything if what I'm saying does not come true or does not lead that way. Like, I just feel like in general we need to tone it down with the true crime. We need to tone it down with the memeification and stanification of people. This kind of parasocial relationship with Gypsy, everything she touches is gold right now. I just feel like it's extremely unhealthy. Like, extremely unhealthy. I also want to mention that it's really interesting to see that Gypsy, a white passing woman, or a white woman, I guess I should say, is getting all this praise, while we have so many women who have fought against their abusers, who have literally been trafficked and had to unalive their abusers, but still got prison time or still in prison. They get harsher sentences, and of course it has to do with the jurisdiction of the state, all the other nuances that go in the case. But I just feel like I don't understand why Gypsy's given this big platform. Was she not her fault? What happens sometimes? But I feel like all this support, I've never seen this kind of support for anyone who's actually also been through abuse, you know. And when it comes to that, they get tried harshly, they get punishment harshly. So I just want to mention that. And I don't think, to the people who compare Gypsy to Charles Manson, because a lot of people like to compare the fact that Gypsy technically was an accessory to murder, even though the charge isn't in her state. Charles Manson did not commit the act of unaliving Sharon Tate. However, he had his followers do it. He made up the plan. Gypsy made up the plan. But I feel like those are completely different, things. In Gypsy's case, it was more of self-defense. I would feel like that's kind of her thing, is that she felt like she needed to, because she needed to get away from her mother. That was the only way she thought that she could do it. And a lot of people like, she didn't tell the police, she didn't tell the doctors, blah 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 blah. She did multiple times. She tried to get away, and I feel like this is kind of victim blaming rhetoric that I've heard myself. Why didn't I tell the police right then? What was I wearing? He was your boyfriend, he couldn't have SA'd you. So many things are made to blame me instead of the actual fact that this crime was committed. With Gypsy, she did what she could. Of course, she was in a state of fear, and when you're in a state of fear, obviously you don't want to be unalived. And I feel like ultimately it would either be Gypsy being unalived or her mother. Like, ultimately I feel like that's what it comes down to. And of course, Gypsy didn't want to be unalived by her mother, and I'm sure that Gypsy didn't want her mother to be unalived if she could help it, but that was pretty much the only way out for Gypsy. And that's just speculation from me, but also from interviews that I've heard her talk on. It's kind of what I'm getting from that. So let me know what you guys think. I think that's the end of today's video. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Please be respectful. I will be monitoring comments. But don't forget to like and subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Baby, guess you never really cared. Got me second guessing, like, I don't know,